Hello everyone, today I want to show you my orchids. These orchids are blooming. They started blooming last year, 3 months ago. At the beginning of December, they started blooming for me. And here are orchids which are in different stage of bloom. Some of them, they just started growing spikes. Some of them, they want to bloom, they want to start blooming. And some of them are in full bloom. And I want to tell you today that you can grow orchid, you can grow successfully if you really know how to do it. You can rebloom your orchid. Some people, they have problem with reblooming their orchids. They buy orchids and their orchids never bloom. Here is some little tricks that you need to know. Orchids love light, they love air, and they love at the same time humidity, and they love to be dry, and they allow to be moist. I will explain you everything in details now. As you see on this shelf, I'm growing orchid, and this the bottom shelf, it's high because I placed there my big orchids, and the second shelf is not tall. See, it's narrow. I will show you the size, how tall it is. See, the height is not big, it's not high. And even in this narrow shelf, my orchids blooming crazy, and I will show you their spikes, how long spikes they have. And in this shelf, I have my big orchids. Here I placed them, and they are also spiking. Some of them even started blooming. Some of them, they are growing babies. As you see, this orchid is growing 2 babies. I will talk about these babies in different video someday. And here my baby is growing crazy, and it started growing new spike. See, this baby is growing and it's growing spike at the same time. And here I saw another baby which is growing spike. I'm very pleased with these results. See, this baby is growing spike here. See, when you keep your orchids happy, they will make you happy too. And other orchids, they are growing spikes. This one is growing secondary spike from last year's spike. These spikes were old, and it decided to grow again. Spike from this old spike, and that one is spiking. See, all of them are growing spikes. And here I have big orchids. Let me show you this way. See how big spike this white orchid growing. It has, see, this one is long spike, and there I have second spike on top of the flower. See here. And here are my mini orchids. I need to draw your attention because I will take these orchids on the table. I put on the table, and I will mention you something there. And now I need to show you. This orchid is in full bloom, as you see. And now it decided to continue growing this spike. This is the continuation. It bloomed when it was in full bloom. It started, you know, it started growing its spike again. It's continuing. And here, the other example here, you see, it's growing these buds. And here on tip, see, this is a place where it's continuing blooming. See, this is new. Again, it's growing new continuation, and it's forming new buds. And I will tell you here I broke this spike last time when I was watering. It was huge spike. And see what I did with this spike. I broke it. And this one, this purple one here, as you see, it's here, it's in full bloom, and now it decided to grow secondary spikes. See, here one, and here other one, and on the tip it's again forming new buds. See, the tip is different color, it's little bit sparkly, it have to shiny, I mean, and see, it's new. You can easily see that the spike is new and it's continuing growing. And here I see the other spikes. See, this orchid is growing 4 spikes, 1, 2, 3, and 4. See, from one spike it has branches, and I will see crazy blooms in this orchid also. These are all mini orchids, and they were small size when I bought them from Lowe's. They were on clearance, they were dying orchids, and after 3 years you see these results. Here I will show you. My orchids were this size, even smaller. This orchid grew in my house. It had these 4 leaves, and now in my care it grew these 2 new leaves. And see how it's small. It can fit in my hand here, see? And all of these orchids, they were this size. See how big they are? They cannot fit in my hand now. See how big they are? And here, this is not a big orchid. This one, see how it's huge. It looks like big orchid, but this one is mini orchid. I will take them all, and one by one I will show you them to you, and I will explain you how to get this kind of results. As you see, I need to tell you something here. As you see, these orchids are growing on the shelf because I don't have space on the windowsill. I have small window, and in other rooms I don't have large windows. This is the biggest window in my house. As you see, it's small. Here I keep most of my orchids in this room. They are close to the window. Even they are close to the window, this light is not enough for them. And that's why I put growing lights on each shelf. As you see, each shelf has growing lights. This is one of the successful ways to have this kind of results. If you don't have growing light, you will not have this kind of results. If you don't have, light room with large windows. If you have large windows and light room, you can have this kind of results even more better, but I don't have that. Even though I don't have that kind of opportunity, still you see what kind of orchids I'm growing. I have success with them, and they are blooming. They're making me happy every day. And on the top shelf, they are blooming also. They are spiking, but I cannot show you them. See, they're spiking. I don't know. It's, if you can see the spikes. See, do you see the spike? And from other way, if I show you, some of them, they started blooming. There. They're growing spikes, and see, they're blooming. They're close to ceiling, and even though they are blooming, see, and here this orchid is in full bloom, this one, and here see, this orchid is in full bloom also. See, these two buds will open, and probably it will continue growing this spike after blooming. You know, they do always in my house. And see, that orchid is blooming from the secondary spike. This spike is old from last year, as you see, and it decided to bloom for me from this spike, and it grew new spike over there, and it's blooming from the new spike also. Most of people are interested which temperature in this room and what level of humidity is. Here you can see 74 degrees Fahrenheit and 52% of humidity level here. And as you see, I am using humidifier here. I put big humidifier in this room. Every day I fill with water, and this bucket is staying for my Vanda orchids. I water them sometimes in this bucket, and you see everything. And see how close this shelf to the window. Here, see, it's close to the window, and this light is not enough. As you see, sun is setting now. Sunset. It's 5:14 now, and now you see what kind of setup I have here. And let's go to the other room and show you in details. I placed these orchids on the table. Here you can see better what I'm talking about. These orchids, all of these orchids, they started blooming at the same time last year, 3 months ago. At the beginning of the December months, they started blooming for me, and now they're in full bloom. Some of them, they didn't drop any flowers yet. See this one, it's in full bloom, and it's even continuing its spike. Here you see this is lighter color, and this is different. This is more darker. See, from here, when it was in full bloom, it started continuing the spike again, and I will have long spike. And here on this place, it's growing again spikes. See, this one spike, and here is the other spike. I will see bushy blooms on this orchid. This orchid, it's a long-lasting orchid, and whenever it blooms, it lasts for 8 months for me. Till August, I will have orchid blooms in my orchids, in this orchid. This orchid is very fragrant. See, it's very fragrant. This orchid started blooming on 3rd of December. See, now it's March 2021. It started blooming on 2020. Here, see, it has huge spike in both of them. See, this one has spike, and this spike branched. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 branches from the main spike. And if you would see this orchid, how beautiful it was when it was in full bloom. Now it's ending. See, it had bushy blooms here, a bunch of flowers I had on this orchid. And here this orchid, see how many branches it grew. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and with the main one is 6. See, from the main spike, it grew 5 spikes, and it was beautiful when it was in full bloom. But I didn't have time. Sorry for that. I didn't show you this beauty. You need to see this. Okay, this one, I wanna show you this one. See how big spike it has. It cannot fit in my hands, even in my 2 hands. See, it's long. See, 1 hand and the other hand, 3 hands I need to have to feed this orchid blooms. See, it's huge spike, and it had 40 blooms on this spike. Now it's ending also. See, but it's continuing also growing new buds here on the tip. Sometimes orchids do that when they're happy. When you really know how to take care of them, they continue growing their spikes from the tip. See? And this one is also growing tip. Here, it's forming other buds here. And I will see more blooms. And even this orchid decided to grow again spike from this place. See? Here is spike growing on this place. And here, if you can see this place, the new spike is growing from this place. In every node here, the spikes can grow. Sometimes babies can grow. See here again, here is new spike growing, and I will see. I don't know how for how long I can see the blooms. Probably this orchid will last long too, but only this one, it doesn't last. You know, last long. It lasts for 4 months. This one, it lasts for 8 months, 9 months. When it starts blooming on December months, and till next year, August, I see blooms from this orchid. And when it's old, these flowers, they will have more lighter color. It's now dark purple. Then they will turn darker, lighter. And here I will have more white edges when they get older. But when they're old, even at that time, they are beautiful. And see how they are growing, their tips. All of them, they are continuing blooming. See, forming the buds. Some of them, they have 2 spikes. Some of them, they have 1. And here, this one is going down. I don't know how I can take it out. I'm afraid to break these buds. See, I need to take this out. See how it's continuing. They do miracles, you know, the orchids. When you really know how to make them happy, they will make you happy too. See how it's growing. It's growing its buds in between the pots. Now I need to put some stick to hold this flower. Here I have, but I need to put it up the clipper. And now it's better, I think. Yes, it's better. See? And this one is growing new spike also and new roots. And they're all happy. I showed you in what kind of pot I planted them 3 years ago, and I never changed the medium. This method is very good for mini orchids, I can tell you, and even for big orchids, but especially mini orchids, they feel very happy in this medium. Here is pine bark mulch. Pay attention, it's not orchid medium, it's mulch from the store, from Lowe's. You can buy it for $2 and you can use for your orchids. Pine bark mulch, perlite, vermiculite, and a little bit sphagnum moss here. And charcoal, of course. Charcoal you can make yourself. I showed you how I make my orchid medium, and see the results. And I never change this medium. Most of people, they when I showed my medium, they said that I make the medium which hold the moisture and my orchid roots can rot, but see, they are not rotted and they are happy. They are happiest orchids in the world, I can say. Here I will show you this orchid, and I will bring my other orchids to compare with this orchid. See, my orchids, these orchids were the same size with this orchid, even smaller. They were smaller and they had bad roots because I got them from Lowe's for $1. They were on clearance, and see the difference. I will put them together, and I don't even need to explain you how big they grow. You can see with your eyes the difference. See how these leaves were when I was buying, and how they are looking now. See how huge, 3 times bigger, I can say 3-4 times bigger. And the blooms, see, this bloom was from the store, and somebody gave me this orchid. I need to replant this orchid. And see the spike, this spike is from the store, and this spike, it's mine. See, even the spikes you cannot compare. See how huge, even the tip of the spike cannot be compared with this orchid. See, 3 times, 4 times bigger spike. This is from the store, and this is mine. See, and with this one I can compare, I think. Yeah, with this one, with the branch, I can compare this spike. Yeah, this is the size. This size was. And let me show you other orchids. Here you see this peach color orchid. I call it peach color, I don't know. I love this color. See, it's blooming and it's in full bloom. This one is also blooming, and this one, it's blooming also. It's from last year's spike. This is old spike from last year, and I didn't cut. I never cut orchid spikes. Keep this in your mind also. I never cut them because they can rebloom for me. This one is forming bud also from last year's spike, from the tip, see, and this is new spike. See the difference. This one is old spike from last year. Last year this orchid was young and it had small spike, and this orchid this year it's older, and see how big spike it's growing now. See, more older orchids I see in my experience, more older they are, more blooms and more bigger spikes they will have. See, this is old and this is new one, and even the spike is fatter than the old year spike, last year spike. See, and here this orchid is just started blooming for me, this one, see, and it has also huge spike. It can fit in my 2 hands. See, it's huge spike. Usually orchids, mini orchids, when they bloom in people's house, when they see 5 or 4 blooms, even that 5-4 blooms, they make them happy. And can you imagine how I'm happy now? I have this many flowers in my orchid, see, and this one is growing spike. See, my orchid's thirsty now. I need to water them. See how roots are growing in this medium. They're growing good. All of them, they have growing tips, green tips, see, and see this one, it's also happy. They are thirsty, that's why these leaves are looking down a little bit. When I feed them, I showed you in my video how they change right away after feeding, after watering and feeding. See, they are growing new roots. They are very happy orchids. And here, this one, see, they are also growing spikes. See how huge spike is this? And it's also branching. 1, 2, 3 branches I will have. See, I already have, and they will bloom. They are forming buds now. See, and soon I will see the blooms. And this one is also growing huge spike. And see, I wanna draw your attention here one thing. I didn't replant both orchids yet. This one I replanted, and these ones I didn't replant them yet. They are in sphagnum moss. See, last year I got them. Not even last year, 5-6 months ago I got them. And see, they are already reblooming me in this short time. I didn't replant them because I wanted to see how they will act. in their old home. I wanted to see if really my medium works for my orchids, or it's fertilizing or something. I wanted to see if the difference, if I don't replant, what will happen with this orchid. And I see something, and I will explain you. And here, see, this orchid, it's not replanted yet also, and it's so happy. See how it's happy. It's growing new roots from the tip of these roots. It's continuing, and these tips are more bigger and fatter than the beginning. The tip is more fatter and bigger, and this orchid is also happy. But there is something which I need to tell you. Here, this orchid, see, this orchid is was also mini. This one, see, this is also mini orchid, and I planted it in this pot. See how I planted it? Here is everything: charcoal, sphagnum moss, pine bark mulch, perlite, and vermiculite. Everything is mixed, and see how this orchid is happy. And this orchid, it bloomed for me last year with these 2 spikes. It was yellow orchid, and I left it. I never cut my orchid spikes. I leave them, and later they can rebloom for me, or they can produce babies from these old spikes. You never know what they will do in the future. That's why I don't cut. And here it started growing again, new spike. And see, the orchid, when you replant in this method, they grow crazy. See how strong this orchid is. This is mini orchid. I don't plant my big orchids, large size orchids in this kind of clear cups. This is clear cup. You can, you know, when you buy some drinks from gas station, or you buy slushes or something, you have these cups and you throw away. Instead of throwing away, I keep them and I plant my orchids. Here I made some drainage holes. Some people, they are interested in this also. They ask me if I make drainage holes. Of course, I made here drainage holes, but later on I started planting my orchids without drainage holes, because it's very comfortable watering. You know, when we water, it's comfortable to fill this cup and then drain it, instead of filling this container, you know, with water. It goes lots of water in this container, but in this cup it doesn't go. You know, you make fertilizer, and with 1 bucket of fertilizer, if you don't have drainage holes, you can water lots of orchids instead of making another bucket of fertilizer and water. That's why later on I started, I stopped making drainage holes in my orchids. Here I have drainage holes, and see the difference. You need to see. This is the orchid from the store. See, this orchid was exactly this size, even smaller. They were even smaller, and some of them, they had miserable roots. And now see how they are growing. Even the roots, see, compare the roots, this root and this root, compare them. You know, you cannot even compare the roots, even the size of the roots. This is fat root, and this is small, see? And here the leaves, see how the leaves are growing. This is a leaf which it came, you know, and most of the leaves, they drop, you know, when they grow, they drop the old leaves, and it dropped also. And see this root, this leaf, and the second, the later, how it started growing leaves. See the size. Every time the size becomes bigger and bigger. See, this is a old leaf, and then it grew this much big leaf, and then every time 2 centimeters bigger and bigger the leaves are. See, every time when the orchid is happy, it grows bigger and bigger leaves than the previous ones. If orchid is not happy, the new leaves, they become smaller size than the previous ones. From that even you can see if your orchid is happy or it's not happy. And from the roots, if the orchid produces new roots, it means it's happy. If it's growing bigger, larger size of leaves, it means it's happy. And you need to know what can make your orchid happy. First place, it's light. You need to use growing light, or you need to put your orchid close to the window. Some people, they don't understand. If the room is light, it's light for them, not for plants. You see, my friend, she showed me her orchids. She bought orchid from the store, and she was so happy to having this orchid, and her happiness didn't last long because she killed her orchid. And I asked her how she was taking care of her orchid. I said, where did you put? I asked her, where did she put her orchid? She said that she placed her orchid in the room, you know, where she wants to see that orchid. It was not close to the window, it was far from the window. And she said, it's light, it's bright room. I said, it's bright for you, not for orchids, for plants. Plants need to see sunlight, they need to be close to the window. If you don't have growing light, you need to put your plants close to the window, not far. Even 2 meters or 1 meter means far from the window, you know. And that's why I put growing lights on top of my plants and see the results. And of course here, not only growing light, here is also feeding. How you feed your orchids. You need to feed your orchids every single time when you water. I water my orchids twice a month nowadays because I don't have time. You know, I'm busy with my kids. They are elementary school students. That's why my older kids are college students. There is a big difference between their ages. That's why it's tough for me. I need to be busy all the time with them. And that's why I don't have enough time to water my plants. You know, that's why I'm watering them twice a month. And every time when I water them, I feed them. Every time I feed them with Calmec, Epsom salt, and orchid fertilizer. And that makes that three things, they keep my orchids healthy. It's better to water orchids once in 10 days. It means 3 times a month in my area, because it depends also what kind of humidity you have and what kind of environment you are living in. And that's why it's very important. It depends from environment also. Some people, they need to water probably their orchids every day. It depends how the roots look. You know, when the orchids, they want to drink, when you lift your orchid pot, it's more lighter, and even from the roots you can see if they want to drink. When the orchid wants to drink, it seems, you know, gray like this. It has light color, it's gray. When you water this orchid, these roots will turn green, dark green. And if you see that here in the pot, if you see sign of the water, it means they are not thirsty yet. When the water disappears totally and you don't see any signs of water in the pot, it's time to water your orchids. I watered these orchids in the middle of the last month, on February 15th, I think. Now March, even 20 days ago, I watered these orchids. I need to water immediately these orchids. That's why their leaves are looking a little bit soft. This one, it's not soft, but with other orchids you can see that the leaves are looking down and they're more softer. See? Here and here, see, it's more softer. I can bend easily this leaf. It means that this orchid is very thirsty and it wants to drink. And this is watering. And I told you about light, about watering. And here is one thing. You can sometimes you can keep your fan on. The room where I keep my orchids, in that room I always have fan on top on the ceiling. If you don't have ceiling fan, you can use simple fan where you can, which you can put on the table, or any fan you can use in your orchid room, and that makes your orchid healthy and happy all the time. And one thing I need to mention, last year I had lots of mealybug problem. That mealybugs went all over my plants. Wherever I had plants, there I had mealybugs. Now you see I fought with that problem also. Now my orchids are clean. I wanted to make a separate video about that. Maybe one day I will make that video, because from the name people can find from the topic they can find what they want to see. But this video will not have the name mealybug, of how to fight with mealybugs. Of course I will not put that name for this video, but I want to show you that also now, because I had problem with timing. I don't have time to make lots of videos. I wish to share with you all the stuff what I'm doing with my plants, but see, there is problem with the timing also. And see, these orchids are happy also. I need to water. They're very, very thirsty orchids. See how the roots look now. They're thirsty orchids, and I need to water. Here is also one thing that I need to mention. To have this kind of long and big spikes, when the orchids start blooming, you need to keep them on that way where you used to keep them before blooming, when they started blooming. Before blooming, you can rotate your orchid. One day, not one day, today I'm watering my orchid, and I put this orchid this way. Let's take, this is window, and I'm putting this orchid this way. And this starts leaning towards the light this way. And next time when I water this orchid, I will rotate it and I put this way. And it starts leaning that side, and that way I can keep my orchids straight like this, see? Like this. It grows straight. One time I put this way, and the other time I put this way, this orchid. I rotate them. Whenever they started blooming, when I see the blooms, when I see these buds, I stop rotating. That's the main thing in, to have this kind of long spikes. If you rotate this orchid, it will get stressed, and these buds can, die. They can blast. That's why when they grow, when they form these buds, you stop rotating your orchid. And that's why I have now, see, it's continuing, the spike is growing. It's growing further, and it's forming new buds. This is the main thing to have this kind of crazy blooms. And this information I wanted to share with you today, guys. Thank you for watching my videos and for your good comments. Thank you all. I really appreciate that. Even though I don't have time to make videos and answer some of your questions, but I try to answer and make more videos about my orchids in the future. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, if you found something beneficial for you, please put thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed yet to this channel, please subscribe. We will discuss more problems and success also in this channel. Thank you. Bye.